Hello and welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. We are back with another fun topic in banishing, and let's just get started. So this is an interesting one. How is death connected with banishing? And I have a lot of possible intersections. So the first one is the idea that death and banishing are both like this final exit, an irreversible transition. So death is like an irreversible transition, and so is banishing. So that's kind of one way they're connected. But also, I want to draw the attention that some groups banish, and that's like unto death for those groups. So it's as if the person is dead. So Amish do the Meidung, and I put anything that I could. I tried to put every translation for things that I did because I pronounce everything so well.
Yeah.
So which is like the shunning, the typical Amish
Mm,
shunning. Australian Aboriginal populations shun in a way that's like into death. Even in Judaism, there's a thing called herem, which is being banished from like an Orthodox Jewish community, and it is akin to death. Like nobody talks about you. They even have like funerals sometimes for you. Yeah, so it
wow.
is like death. Like people mourn over these
Mm,
people. Yeah, so that's kind of a connection. But also, we talked about death of the ego and talked about banishing and what that could even mean. So, what is death of the ego? So, it's like a personal transformation, and it's been described as a banishment of the old self. So, sometimes it's like rites of passage or spiritual awakenings. It's when you deconstruct your I identity. And this I that's built through habits and thoughts and fears and past experiences. And there's very specific ways that people like go through this death of the ego. And some of them can be like a simulated death, okay? So like psychedelic journeys, like some of those the psychedelic journeys are like death experiences, and it occurs where you kind of dissolve, like your personal I dissolves into the collective we, so or the universe or the universal energy. During mystical or meditative states this could happen, sometimes even during intense grief or trauma there could be like a sort of ego death. Initiatory rituals. And sometimes I might say that sometimes initiatory rituals involve psychedelic journeys. So,
yeah, for sure.
so why would we even want to banish the ego or have an ego death? Why is that even a thing? Because the ego isn't in and of itself bad. So it's like how we move around the world, right? I'm me, you're you, and we have Raven and we have Rebecca, and that's how we move around the universe, okay? Um, but in many spiritual systems, it's tied to a lot of things that hold us back, like from the idea of universal wholeness, and lots of fears are tied with that conception of being really involved with like the I, like the letter I, me. So yeah. So what is banished ego death what is banished during ego death practices then? So identities, roles that you take on in the world, masks that you wear, false beliefs, attachments to things. So that's can be that. So that's and then the other thing that I found that was a thought about was this idea of soul molting. And I thought you might like that picture of this.
Hmm, I do like that.
Okay, so the idea of molting is that we get bigger, okay? And then the outer skin is sloughed off of us because we get too big for that outer skin. And it's the idea of like emotional soul melting, like that we grow as humans and we outgrow our old way of working in the world. So, Like we shed these outdated beliefs and wounds, and like it's like peeling off this layer of skin that doesn't fit anymore. It's the old soul skin is banished and it's left behind like a husk, and then we have this new kind of raw version of us inside. This can be painful. It's not always easy to do this. The old self doesn't go quietly, right? It clings. It's attached. That's like a Buddhist idea. Like that's why all suffering happens is because we're attached to things. We're attached to our fears. We're attached to our masks. We're attached to our identities. We're attached to things, people, places, and things. So, that's some spiritual path emphasize this ritual banishing of like your old self, right? So then finally, how is death connected with banishing? And like, why are death herbs connected with banishing? So those are the two kind of like types of death that we encounter as humans while we're still alive and we're not actually dead, like the kind of actual shunning, some sort of ego death, some sort of soul molting. These are all connected with death and can be a form of banishing. But also, like, death herbs are connected with banishing. So why are these death herbs connected and also used for banishing? Um, so death herbs are often powerful agents of like release and separation, and they symbolize endings, final endings. And if you're banishing something, you need a strong herb that knows how to cut things out and knows what an ending looks like and knows what a release and a separation is all about. It's like it's a tool that cuts out and drives things out. So also here's one that I didn't really think about that I kind of came across in my research was that death is considered polluting in some cultures, and that it's a pollution to touch the dead in some cultures.
Mm.
So herbs that clear away death energies, they clear away death energies. So they clear away these negative energies in other respects as well. So if any like negativity or pollution that's attached with the death, these herbs, they burn that out or they throw that out. So like rue or wormwood. Okay, those are two. And some herbs are of death are connected to the chthonic or the underworld energies. So like belladonna, wormwood, mugwort, yew. Um, and we've hinted at this before in some of the herbs. So they can call up these spirits and then drive them away. Like, so they can call them up from a surrounding, any of these chthonic spirits or these chthonic energies, and then they can drive them away. Because these herbs, they're known to the dead. So the dead and other spirits listen when the herbs are used, or the energies, the death energies, or the energies of the underworld. So they listen on these are, if you take a more animistic or whatever view of herbs, um, they they speak to the dead. These herbs they're agents that speak to the dead. So let us stop the sharing and we can discuss a little bit about that. What do you think about this and about, especially about ego death and soul molting, because this is kind of like your area of expertise?
Yeah, I think that the concept and when actually carried out is very like powerful. And I also think that you can't really completely and like totally kill your ego because your ego is, like you said, it's part of you in this world, right? The thoughts that I have, my behaviors in this time and space, like that's my ego. And so to have a like with withstood ego death would mean like death in this plane, in my opinion. And so, but I think that it's nice to have ego deaths that you can for like a short period of time, so like during a ceremony or something, and then taking that information, because with ego death, then you're, like you said, you're kind of put into more of the collective. And then you come out of that ideally with more knowledge and information on how to like better yourself is weird, but how to like connect more to the esoteric energies, the collective and the magic and all of that stuff. And so ideally you have this temporary ego death, then you gain knowledge during that ego death that you can bring about to your waking life. And I the problem is a lot of people don't do that because like you said, it's really hard, right? If you have this knowledge of like, oh, this is why I do this thing, this is why I have this addictive behavior, I need to stop that, and this is how I stop it, it's easier said than done. And so a lot of people go through this ego death with in ceremonies and stuff and then just don't carry through, which I think is problematic. But I would definitely say that ego death is like a type of banishing because ideally you're not banishing the ego, but you're banishing something that has come out during the ego death. And I think that that's how that would work. But I like that connection.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have anything to add about any of the herbal connections or the soul molting or
Um, the soul molting I think is interesting because I think that
I know
that
it
is
never really
also
I never really heard that term before, but I
no,
like
me
that idea.
neither. Yeah, me too. And I think that that is kind of the goal of like the aftermath of the ego death. And like you don't have to have to experience ego death to go through soul molting, I don't think, like in my opinion. But I think that that's the thing, right? If you go through this experience and you bring this knowledge about, then you are kind of like molting who you were and integrating the stuff that you have learned during this process and becoming a slightly better or more holistic version of yourself. So I like that. I like that term. And that with the herbs, I agree. I'm going to talk about that a little bit when for one of my discussion topics. But yeah, I think that tying like the death herbs, I think would be are really, really great to use in banishing because that's kind of what we're trying to do, right? And again, it's like scooping, you have come into my boundaries. I'm scooping this out and I'm getting rid of it. And ideally that energy or that connection or that tie or whatever those chains or whatever our death card or not death card our devil card would be like it would be dead, like at least to us that connection that would be severed. So I like the death herbs associating with that with banishing. I like that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And you know what? I really relate to the soul molting in a like looking back at like a person that I once was that kind of let my boundaries be crossed or took on way too much that wasn't mine. And then like you grow and you do the shadow work
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of like you grow a bit too big for that old skin. And it's kind of like an interesting concept to banish that like that old husk. I kind of like that
Yeah,
idea. I'm kind
I
of
do too.
I know I might like do some work or thought about that or creating some spell work about like
Yeah.
banishing the old husk.
Mm.
That could be
Yeah,
interesting.
because it's still there potentially, right? It's easy to crawl back into that
It is.
skin. So you want
It
to
is.
get it out of
No,
here.
exactly. No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. I love
Yeah.
this topic. Anyway, I hope you did too. And we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.